Hare Krishna. So welcome all the devotees for our Friday Bhagavad Gita sessions. So from today we are beginning with the chapter 1. So Bhagavad Gita is very beautifully structured in entire 18 chapters. So in our attempt to read Bhagavad Gita in these Friday sessions, we are basically trying to go deep in understanding the purpose which Srila Prabhupada has given. And try to see some practical applications along with some understanding of the what Krishna is intended to speak and what is Arjuna was supposed to be. In this way, we'll try to go through the proper understanding of Gita and also see its practical applications in life. In this way, we will study Gita, and in this way, we can see Bhagavad Gita playing a very important role in shaping our life with a lot of meaningful values and principles. So considering this, I request every week that somebody should prepare on the next section what we are going to discuss and present it for a few minutes. It's not only for the presenter who is giving who is supposed to prepare, but others also can read Bhagavad Gita in this way. Read those 10 whatever verses we give, read them, understand them along with the purport, and trying to make your presentation in a way what you understood, how you linked all those verses, and along with it you can also share some very important points which you felt very connected in the Srila Prabhupada purpose, and you can present some personal applications like that way. If required, some of you can even prepare a PPT and present also, like that also. You get an opportunity to learn presentation of Bhagavad Gita in a simple way where people can understand. So this week, I requested, we requested our Aruna Prabhu to speak on the Bhagavad Gita first chapter, first 10 verses. Is it not? Aruna Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah. So now you can share.
Om Agyana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurumlimitan Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadapidam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yudopadakamalam Shri Rupam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sakrajakram Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parjana Shahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padana Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanti Tamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Shri Radha Jinda Vaneshwari Vishwavana Sute Devi Pranamani Hari Priye Panchapalpatrubhasya Kipa Sindhuvo Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavabhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivashadi Shri Gaura Bhakta Vinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. So today I've been given the responsibility to share my thoughts on the first 10 verses of the Bhagavad Gita of the first chapter. So I'll start with the recitation and then I'll just add whatever I have understood from that particular verse. So this is from chapter 1, text 1. Dhritarastra Uvacha Dharmashetra Kurukshetra Samaveta Yuyutsava Mamaka Pandavaschaiva Kim Akurvata Sanjaya. So here we are actually introduced to the battlefield of Kurukshetra, which is also known as the Dharmashetra. So it's a place of pilgrimage, and it has been there from time immemorial since the Vedic age, and it is especially important because here the Lord was personally present and spoke his words for the guidance of mankind. We are introduced to the characters of Dhritarashtra and Sanjaya. Dhritarashtra, as most of us would know, is the father of the Kurus. Here he is in a the situation is like uh, he's highly doubtful of the possibility of his son's Duryodhan's ultimate victory. So in his doubt, he is inquiring it from his secretary Sanjaya that what what is the situation right now on the battlefield, and what are my sons doing, and what is the sons of Pandu doing. So, and in this particular line, what are my sons doing and the sons of Pandu doing. So he is already demarcating. There's a clear distinction between my sons and somebody else's sons, even though they are all part of the same family. So he had many chances to coordinate a compromise between the Kurus and the Pandavas. But in his heart, he already always had a very soft corner and ignorant love towards his own children, towards his own kin. That's why he supported them, even though he knew that it is the path of adharma. So right now, Kurukshetra being a very pious place, and Dhritarashtra was very apprehensive that whether in such a pious place, which is a Dharam Kshetra, how will his sons fare against the Pandavas, who are known to me of utmost virtue. So he inquires this to Sanjaya. Sanjaya is able to see the events of the battlefield. He was actually granted this boon from Sri Vyasdev, and as such, he in the consequent verses he will be explaining what is going on in the battle of Kurukshetra. So that's is what I've understood from the first verse. So I'll move on to the next. Sanjaya Uvacha Drishtatu Pandavanikam Vyodham Duryodhanastara Archaryam Upasangamya Raja Vachanam Abrabhit. So here he is mentioning that after Duryodhan is, sees the lineup that the Pandavas has presented on their side, he quickly makes his way to his uh, commander of his side of the army, of Duryodhan's army, who is the learned uh, Dronacharya. So, seeing the formidable side that the Pandavas has put ahead, that he says that Duryodhan moves to Dronacharya to seek that how he will is thinking about defeating the formidable side of the Pandavas. Dhritarashtra was blind in. He asked this question to Sanjay, but he was a blind person. But here we can see that he was blind not only in the physical sense of the body, but also spiritually, because he knew that his son is on the other side of dharma, and still he is asking such questions. And in his mind, he also knew what the final outcome would be. But since he was so dearly attached uh, to his own sons in the gross material sense of the body, that he could not uh, uh, expect that his sons will lose in the battle. I'll move on to the next one. Chapter 1, Text 3. Pashayatam Panduputranam Acharya Mahatim Chamum Vyudam Drupada Putrena Tava Shishyana Dhimata. So here Duryodhan,
No, Prabhu. You may not recite the verses, that our time is, here
okay,
time, so you can brief on the
okay,
verse
I'll just,
by mentioning.
okay, I'll just,
Yeah, okay.
okay. So in this verse 3, so we find that Duryodhan is actually pointing towards the fact that Drishtadyumna, who is the son of Drupad, has arranged the battlefield for the Pandavas, and Drishtadyumna was given a, actually Drupad was given a benediction that due to his austerities when he was in his younger age, that he would bear a son who would be the ultimate demise of Dronacharya. So this is because at a very young age, Dronacharya and King Drupad had a quarrel amongst themselves, and in which Dronacharya had insulted him. So then, due to this, Drupad had done some austerities, and for which he bore a child who was professed to take to have the ability to face and defeat Dronacharya, which is actually not possible for many of the uh, people in that battleground. So uh, he went, what do you call, he the magnet, but we have to see the magnanimity and the open heartedness of Dronacharya also, because Dronacharya knew that this was his nemesis, but still, without being biased, he taught the same skills to the Pandavas as well to the Kurus as well as to Drishtadyumna, even though he knew that this will ultimately culminate into something which will be his own demise. So this is what we can learn uh, from being a staunch supporter of dharma, that you should do your duties and leave the results or the fate to the higher powers. Uh, and in verse, so I'll not mention the next verse as Prabhuji has mentioned. So in the verse 4, Duryodhan mentions that uh, apart from he mentions that apart from the stalwarts like Bhima and Arjuna, there are many other formidable opponents in the camp of the Pandavas. In verse fifth and sixth, he mentions that uh, there are other chariot warriors at the Pandavas end. He explains the characters' name, which are introduced into the battlefield right now. In 7th and 8th, he describes his own army, which consists of stalwarts like Bhishma Pitama, Karna, Kripacharya, Ashwathama. And in verse 9, he says important thing that uh, that the people on his side, Duryodhan's side, Duryodhan is very much confident that these people will give their lives for him to win. And it is a very ironical statement, because actually at the end of the day they do lose their lives. These people, they do lose their lives, and Duryodhan is not the winner, not because of some other earthly reason, but because simply of the fact that who people who are on the part of on the side of adharma, they are always bound to lose sooner or later. So I'll move on to the next verse, the last verse, verse 10. So Duryodhan mentions that his own team is superior because it is led by the greatest of all time, Bhishma Pitama, whereas the Pandavas are being currently led by Bhima. He might be what you call strong and very brave, but in terms of sheer experience as a war general, he's nowhere close. So again, this is a wrong understanding, or not a wrong understanding, rather a incomplete understanding, because uh, war is not only in actually about physical strength. It is also about your intent, and whether, like I mentioned, whether you have the Lord on your side or dharma on your side. Whoever is right will have the upper hand, and it is not always that physical strength will do everything, because like we have will discuss in the upcoming what you call text also, that at one point of time Lord Krishna gives his complete army to the to Duryodhana, but he himself moves on to the side of the Pandavas. It was Arjun's request also. He had offered Arjun and Duryodhana as to what they want, and Arjun leaped onto. He wanted Krishna so bad, but not his army. Whereas Duryodhana was smiling in his heart that Arjun is so stupid that he asked for one person instead of getting the entire army. So, like I mentioned, Arjun was very smart. In his, he knew what he wanted, but Duryodhana was absolutely drowned in his own lust for absolute power, and he hated the Pandavas, and uh, uh, this clouded his judgment, his sense of judgment. And because at one point of time we see that before this war started, Krishna had gone to the Kurus as a with a proposal for peace, and ultimately he actually wanted that to give them five small villages, uh, and then this war wouldn't have progressed or took shape. But Duryodhana was so stupid in his anger or in his lust or in his pride, his false pride and ego, that he's mentioned that he won't even give them 1 inch of a space. Forget about five villages. So we should know where we should draw our boundaries and take the right way when we are given the chance. Because at this point of time, even if he wants to do a compromise, he's already on the battlefield and he can't do anything. So till verse 10, this is what I understood.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Am I audible?
Yes, Prabhu, you're audible.
Thank you, Aruna Prabhu, for a very wonderful briefing on important points of each of those verses. You scheduled your time also very nicely. Where you need to explain, you explained a lot, and where you have to just move on, you moved on. And you specifically pointed out the characters of Dhritarastra and Duryodhana, and elaborated on the verses spoken here. And in fact, actually, these all you can see from Prabhupada purports. In the Prabhupada purports, you get a very clear understanding of all this and the net course. Thank you. So I would like to just echo whatever Aruna Prabhu mentioned in 10 minutes for next 50 minutes. And we'll try to elaborate on some important points which he was stressing on, taking reference from the Acharyas. Okay. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Aruna Prabhu, for your wonderful presentation. Hare Krishna. So this Bhagavad Gita is very, as I mentioned earlier, Bhagavad Gita is structured very beautifully. The first out of the 18 chapters of Bhagavad Gita, it is divided in 3 sections. This is one important points which we need to highlight here. That Bhagavad Gita structure is like a jewel box. I'll just you're able to see now? Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, are you able to see?
Yes, Prabhu, we are able to see.
Yes, Prabhu, yes.
So Bhagavad Gita is structured in this particular way. It's like a jewel box. It's a golden jewel box, which is taking, is holding a very important crest jewel within that, a diamond within that. So it is divided. So Bhagavad Gita, 18 chapters are divided by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, is one of our Acharya. And if you see Srila Prabhupada purports in Bhagavad Gita, they are basically pointed in this three commentaries. One is of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, and second is mostly his commentaries are based on the commentary or comments which are given by Baladev Vidyabhushan. He is a disciple of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. So these two are the main commentaries from where Prabhupada gives his purpose. And also Srila Prabhupada relates to Sridhar Swami. So these three Acharyas commentaries are quite prominently used by Srila Prabhupada in his purports, and in a way explained by which we can practically apply. So here in this particular structure which I just showed you, so we see that how this Bhagavad Gita has 18 chapters, and the 18 chapters are divided into three sections. The first 6 chapters, which are compared to the lower lid of the lower covering of the box. This basically speak on Karma Yoga. Before we go into what is the yoga and karma, what is yoga and Karma Yoga? Yoga means which connects us to linking. It's a linking. Yoga means linking. So when a living entity, Jiva, like all of us, we connect to God, that is called yoga process. And there are, in Shastra, there are mainly prominently three types of yogas. The first yoga is called as Karma Yoga. That means you connect to God by your activities. You perform certain duties in your life without expecting any results. And in fact, you offer the results which come out of doing a work, and also the work to Krishna, to the God. In this way, it is called as Karma Yoga. In this, what happens is a person elevates his consciousness, elevates his thought process. He does his work with a detached responsibility. He has a responsibility, but with a detachment. His responsibility to do the work, but is not attached to the results. The results is offering to God, the Karma Yoga. And the second yoga, which is mentioned, as a person does this gradually, his knowledge about doing work increases. That means not about the activity, how the work happens. That expertise he may get because of having doing it repeatedly, the work. But here, why is working? For whom is he working? This type of knowledge increases. It results to jnana. Therefore, the second yoga is compared to jnana yoga. Jnana yoga means a person is doing work. He has a knowledge of what is the work, but why that work he is doing, for whom he is doing, for what is the main purpose of doing that work. That understanding, realizations he gets. That realization turns is connecting to God process into Jnana Yoga. Very empirical. You will have to understand. Should I work like this only throughout my life? Or is there any other way to get to connect to God? Is it necessary that I am to remain in this particular way of prescribed duty? Is there any way by which I can do a better work? So this type of jnana that develops, that is Jnana Yoga. And as the Jnana Yoga continues, culminates into the third, is a person for whom he is working. If he is working for a specific person, God, and he is able to relate with the God more intimately, then he comes to call the process called Bhakti Yoga. So the lower covering of the box is compared to the Karma Yoga. The first 6 chapters, Krishna speaks about Krishna emphasizing to Arjuna that he should not give up his work, rather work for him. So he describes about performing his duties according to one's nature is very, very important. But doing that work and offering the work and the results to God is the important aspect. It's called Karma Yoga. And the last 6 chapters, that is from 13th to 18th chapter, the last six chapters, they are like the upper lid of the box, jewel box. In this, the jnana, the knowledge aspect is explained. The knowledge by which you can connect to God. Work by which you can connect to God is called Karma Yoga. And the knowledge by which you actually can get more connected to God, understand the God, understand the nature, the material world, understand the Jiva more precisely. That is called as Jnana Yoga. And these two cover the most important jewel, that is the middle 6 chapters, 7 to 12, which directly speak about directly connecting to God. It's not through work you have to connect to God. It's not through knowledge you connect to God, but it is through your heart you directly connect to God, Krishna. That is called Bhakti Yoga. So the middle 6 chapters, Krishna elaborates on that aspect. So if you see, Krishna's way of structuring Bhagavad Gita is inspiring Arjuna not to give up war. Therefore, he spoke Karma Yoga. In the Karma Yoga is inspiring Arjuna that you must do your duty. But do it for me. That is what the middle 6 chapters. For him you do. Who is he? And why he only? Why Krishna only? What is the connection between the soul and God? That is more elaborately explained in the 6th, 7th to 12th chapter, Bhakti Yoga. And doing this work, doing this war for Krishna, and while doing the job of you prescribe a duty, you need to have that knowledge in the back of the mind. The last 6 chapters speak about Jnana Yoga, knowledge by which you can connect with God. So in this way, the first 6 chapters and the last 6 chapters are actually protecting the middle 6 chapters, are actually being withstanding because of the middle 6 chapters. So in this way, we see the beautiful, way the Bhagavad Gita is structured. And Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur says, those who read Bhagavad Gita, they should understand the heart of Bhagavad Gita. The heart of Bhagavad Gita is the middle 6 chapters. And what is being emphasized in the middle 6 chapters is also being touched in the first 6 chapters and the last 6 chapters. Therefore, if you refer to Bhagavad Gita, you can see that Bhakti Yoga is the principle which is being emphasized from the beginning only by Krishna. And therefore, Srila Prabhupada writes Bhagavad Gita as it is, because he wants to present the commentaries as Krishna is speaking to Arjuna. What Krishna intended to speak to Arjuna. In that, with keeping this in the mind, he has spoken Bhagavad Gita. So in this way, this Bhagavad Gita has been structured. And you can see that Karma Yoga leads one to the Jnana Yoga, and Jnana Yoga leads one to Bhakti Yoga. That's how the yoga ladder. And Bhagavad Gita, there is one ladder also explained. Ladder means the ladder by which one goes up. So every yoga is actually leading to Bhakti Yoga only. Whether a person is performing Karma Yoga, basically is aiming at Bhakti Yoga while performing Karma Yoga. And a person is coming to performing Jnana Yoga is actually aiming at Bhakti Yoga. So everyone is pointing, or everyone is progressing towards the Bhakti Yoga, which is the culmination. And this culmination is also explained in the last chapter of Bhagavad Gita by 2 important verses, 18.665 and 66. 18 chapter 65 and 66 verses. Man manabal bhakto madhya jhimam namashkuru. So Srila Prabhupada points out these 2 are the called the servants of the bhakti. These two verses are called as servants of bhakti. I'll just share it. I suppose it must be here somewhere. Okay, it's not here. Right. So on the jewel box, on the lid, cover lid, two gems are studded to decorate it nicely. And the two gems are these two verses, 18.65 and 66 verse. You can open in your app or anywhere you have it, 65 and 66. Or I will share. Yeah, Manmana Bhavam. I'll just share it in this. Yeah, you can see it. Manmana Bhava Madbhakto Madhyaji Mam Namashkuru Mamai Vaishyasya Satyam Te Pradijani Priyosi Me. So while concluding Bhagavad Gita, Krishna again repeating the most important instructions of Bhagavad Gita. And those instructions are these two instructions. Manmana Bhava Madbhakto Madhyam Namashkuru. Always think of me, Arjuna. Become my devotee. Worship me and offer your homage unto me. Thus, you will attain me without fail. I promise you to this because you are my dear friend. Pratijani Priyosim. I declare it. I promise you this, that you will surely attain me. So, this is considered a very important studded diamond on that jewel box. And the next one is the next chapter, the next verse, which you will see. Sarvadharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja aham tam sarva papebhyo moksha ishyami ma suchaha. So this verse is very, I think most of the we also know it. So you can repeat after me. Sarvadharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja. Somebody can repeat.
Mamekam sharanam vraja.
Aham tam sarva papebhyo
Aham tvam sarva papebhyo
mokshayishyami ma suchaha.
mokshishwami ma suchaha.
Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. Krishna is ultimately concluding Arjuna that take only to pure bhakti. These two verses are called as very pure verses, and they're the servants of bhakti. And in this way, you see, while lecturing on Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna, Krishna always kept in the mind the principle of bhakti should be emphasized. And this is what the spirit of reading Bhagavad Gita. Spirit is devotional service, the bhakti. The bhakti to Krishna is exclusively being stressed in Bhagavad Gita. What about bhakti to other demigod? And what about the living and way of worshipping Krishna, but in different other ways, by Jnana Yoga, by Dhyana Yoga, by Ashtanga Yoga? So these all are further elaborated because these are the questions which Arjuna asks us in between. And then Krishna elaborates on those aspects to Arjuna in the rest of the entire, you can say all the 18 chapters. So it's very important when we are reading Bhagavad Gita, as we are now going to proceed on from beginning verse today, keep this principle always intact. Principle of bhakti is being emphasized. Bhakti is not just a devotion, mental attitude. It's a service. It's an active service which one does to the Supreme Lord. We can see the result of speaking Bhagavad Gita is Arjuna became very enthusiastic. He knew many of his friends, relatives are going to lay down their life. They're going to die. but is enthusiastic. Even the emotionally was challenged many times in the war field in those 18 days. Still, Bhagavad Gita instructions kept his heart and mind focused, enthused in serving Krishna. And this is possible because of bhakti principle. Otherwise, just by reading Bhagavad Gita, if you are not coming to the conclusion of bhakti, then that reading has no use. And that reading has no use, practically no use. Because we have seen many times people become very educated, they become scholarly in reciting the verses. With closing their eyes, they can easily speak verse after verse. But when you ask them the conclusive understanding of it, they don't come to the conclusion of bhakti principle. In fact, every verse is focusing, is pointing towards bhakti. All the 700 verses in Bhagavad Gita are pointing toward the devotional service only. And if you can come to that same conclusion, then your reading is perfect. Reading is reasonable, is understandable, or you have spent your quality time in Bhagavad Gita. So let us emphasize on this aspect. Let us keep this principle very constant in our reading of Bhagavad Gita, and while we proceed, even in discussion also we'll keep this into principle. So therefore, abandon all matters of religion and just surrender to me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reaction. Do not fear. So we see the principle of fear in this material world is being used both by religious institutes and also by the media and also by the industries outside. So here Krishna is assuring, do not fear, because everyone is driven by the fear. And because of fear, only person is working hard. He's searching for happiness so that he can be free from the thoughts of fear. So the fear can actually be relieved from one's heart and mind only when one takes shelter of the personality whom even the fear personified fears. That is Madhava. That is Krishna. By surrendering to Krishna, actually we are getting free from the fear itself. So the Bhagavad Gita study has made Arjuna fearless. And can we see the result in the war field itself? How enthusiastically, emotionally stable. He became emotionally challenged, but still he remained stable because of the surrender to Krishna on the principle of bhakti. Okay, so we will be going through the verses as Aruna Prabhu mentioned very beautifully. The first verse, Dharma Kshetra, is very important verse. So I will be requesting all of you also to remember certain verses, and in each and every chapter there will be some important verses which you can recite. The first verse is very important. Okay, well, just share you the chapter. Yeah. This one. Yeah, please repeat after. Dharma Dhritarastra Vacha. Somebody would like to repeat with their mic unmute? Yeah. Dhritarastra Vacha.
Dhritarastra Uvacha
Dharma Kshetre Kurukshetre.
Dharmashetre Kurukshetre
Samaveta Yuyotsavaha.
Samaveta Yuyusavaha
Mamaka Pandavaschaiva.
Mamaka Pandavaschaiva
Kurvata Sanjaya.
Kim Kurvata Sanjaya.
So the Bhagavad Gita starts with the first verse spoken by Dhritarashtra. Is mentioned here, Dhritarashtra Uvacha. Wherever any shloka, the first line speaks like this, that means that that further verses being spoken by that personality. And if there is a change, immediately that will be shown. Bhagavan Uvacha, Partha Uvacha, Arjuna Uvacha, every Sanjay Uvacha, like that it comes. If it is not being spoken anything, you have to see in the beginning who has spoken that. The beginning verse of it. Not that all 700 verses are spoken by Krishna. But these all 700 verses are very important because these are noted down by Vyasadeva. Trikala Jnana Shakti, he has that potency by which he could envision and he could bring out those aspects in very clear. So, and these verses are being compiled in the Mahabharata, in the end of Mahabharata by Vyasadeva in the form of Bhagavad Gita. So, while he's compiling, Vyasadeva is mentioning these verses. So, Vyasadeva is the literary incarnation of Krishna. In this way, 700 verses are actually returned by Lord himself in the literary incarnation. However, those specific verses are spoken by specific personalities. And when we can see from those verses, it's not what they speak, it's not that how they're speaking or what they're speaking is also important. What they're speaking, that brings out their intentions. Generally, a person is known when he starts speaking. Is it not? A person is known when he starts speaking. We can see from this verse the mentality of the first character, Dhritarastra. Dharma kshetre, kurukshetre, samaveta yutsva. You see this picture? Dhritarashtra, the blind, who is actually he was born blind. We should know the story of this, why he was born blind. All of us know that when Satyavati, two sons were getting married. He wanted them to be married. That time, Bhishma goes and gets Ambika and Ambalika. Ambika and Ambalika, they were brought and they were married. And then later on, we see that Chitrangada, Vichitravirya and Chitrangada, they both die at different timings. One dies because of the fight between one Gandharva, Vichitra. His name was also Vichitravirya. There was a fight, and that fight they killed him. Other person dies because of too much drinking of liquor. So both die. That time Satyavati thinks about how the progeny will go ahead. Then Satyavati gives an invitation to Vyasadeva, who is her first son. Satyavati had first son from Parashara Muni. And that son was literary incarnation, Vyasadeva himself. And when Vyasadeva born, he immediately went to the forest. But before going to forest, he told Satyavati, his mother, anytime you need my help, please bring me. So immediately Satyavati requested him to come, and Vyasadeva comes directly from the forest. And he says, both Ambika and Ambalika have not begotten any children. And how the progeny will continue for the Kuru Vamsha. And you, please, you impregnate them. And then he says, Vyasadeva says, let me get ready first. I just came from the forest directly. I have done tapasya. Let me first do further tapasya and worship Vishnu and regain my health in a way suitable for begetting children. However, Satyavati says, no, we don't have that much time. You must immediately impregnate both this Ambika and Ambalika. So Ambika and Malika, they were expecting the brother, the brother of their husband, who is now passed away, to be more handsome like him. But when they suddenly saw, because saw suddenly Vyasadeva entry, who was in a sage from hermitage, his entire skin is rough by the sunlight, it became very dried up. Seeing that sage, respect will be raised in the heart, however, but there is no affection or attachment. And that too, he's coming to have a union. impregnate her with the semen. But when he came, where they came, she could not bear it. His appearance she could not bear. So immediately Ambika, what she did? She closed her eyes. And Vyasdev, as a service to his mother, Satyavati, he impregnated her. And after impregnating her, he came out and mentioned to Satyavati, yes, she will get a very strong child. In his bhujha, in the shoulders, he will have a strength of more than 10,000 elephants. He has such strength. However, the child will be born blind. And Satyavati was shocked. Why? Why so like that? Because Ambika kept her eyes closed out of disinterest to have a union with a sage who is very, bodily very deformed. Because of which the child will be bodily deformed in terms of blind. He'll be born blind. And then immediately Satyavati goes and requests both the daughter-in-laws to be have a proper consciousness and respectful attitude while inviting Vyasadeva. And she requests Vyasadeva again to go and impregnate Ambalika. And then when Ambalika was impregnated, at that time she already knew that Vyasadeva is a sage, is going to come. She did not close her eyes. She kept her eyes open. However, she was quite inactive. Inactive in the sense she was not very enthusiastic. She was quite pale, annoyed. It's like annoyed mood of thought, consciousness she had. And because of which, as they mentioned Satyavati, that the second child who will be born will be very active, will be very strong. I mean, he will be very strong and healthy. However, he will be pale. Therefore, his name will be Pandu. Pandu was the name given to him because of being pale. Pale means he becomes stunned and annoyed at a particular situations in his life. And then Satyavati again requests, please go. I want to have a grandchild who will be befitting for taking care of this Kuru Vamsa ahead. And that time she again sends Vyasadeva to Ambika. But Ambika did not want to have again another chance to union with Vyasadeva. So what she did, in her place, she kept her maid servant. And that maid servant had a great respect for Vyasadeva. And she very devotedly, she made Vyasadeva to sit, and she served him by massaging his feet, washing his feet, and then also served him various eatables. In this way, she pleased him. And then their union brought out another very amazing child. And then Vyasdev comes back to Satyavati and he mentions about her that this child is born from the womb of a Dasi. So he'll be Dasi Putra. And his name will be Vidura. He will be very religious, devoted brother of the first two brothers. And then Satyavati was annoyed. Annoyed with Ambika that instead of she being there, she kept her maid servant there. Because Vidura cannot be made into, cannot be enthroning the, what do you call, the Raja, Simhasan. So she again, Vyasdev, she was requesting Vyasdev. Vyasdev said, enough. This is more than enough. And I am losing my purity, which I have been maintaining through because of my austerities and tapasya which I am doing. And I don't want to get into all this business further. Because as a mother, you called me. I obliged by your instructions. However, now it's sufficient. Then Vyasdev leaves. So that's how Dhritarastra, Pandu, and Vidura were born. And Vidura was the brother, younger brother, very much loved by Dhritarastra and Pandu. However, he was not in a role of enthroning the king. He was giving his suggestions. And Dhritarastra, his name itself mentions how he is very much attached. Dhrita and Rashtra, who is attached to his land and kingdom. The names are given in the Vedic time based on the character of a person, which is being checked during their making their horoscope during their birth. And Pandu enthroned the kingship because Dhritarashtra was blind. And Dhritarashtra was feeling attachment to the Simhasan, but he had no option because of Pandu. And later on, Pandu, when he died immaturely before time, then Dhritarashtra felt very relieved that he had the opportunity to enthrone the entire Guru Vamsa. And he wanted his own sons to be in that, in the with further generation. However, actually that initiation should go to the Pandavas because they are the sons of Pandu. And Pandu, because of his being able kingship, later on when his children come to matured age, they should be given the kingdom. But Dhritarashtra, because of attachment to their position and power and the taste which he was getting in that role, he wanted that to be enjoyed by his own sons. Therefore, Dhritarashtra was not only blind materially, but also spiritually was blinded because of the attachment. Dharma Kshetra, Kurukshetra. So it said that in that Dharma Kshetra, it is called named Kurukshetra. What is the Kurukshetra? For that you have to refer to Bhagavatam. In the Bhagavatam, this particular tract of land was named after the king Kuru. King Kuru is named after. Therefore called Kurukshetra. And in this place, there used to be a lot of religious sacrifices which are performed for the pleasure of Devatas by the divine people. Therefore, this Kurukshetra became Dharmakshetra. Because a lot of religious sacrifices are being performed. See, generally, in place is known by the activities which happen in that place. Okay. So Kurukshetra is a place where a lot of the religious sacrifices are performed. Therefore, and in the same place where Prithu Maharaj also performed sacrifices. It is the same place where I think other kings have come, and then Parshuram, it is mentioned, he also performed a sacrifice or tapasya there. So this Dharma Kshetra, this Kurukshetra is very dharmic, religious. And Samaveta Yuyutsavaha. Yutsava means with enthusiasm, both the Kauravas and Pandavas assembled there on the battlefield. So when they assembled in the battlefield, naturally, if somebody is coming on a Eden Garden Stadium to watch a cricket tournament which is going to happen, and that time you're sitting in the chair and asking your friend, what is going to happen now? But obvious, there will be a cricket match. The first innings will start. So naturally, this is the way it will happen. But here, this Dhritarashtra was very anxious. He wanted to ask Sanjaya what is happening in the battlefield. He is sitting in Hastinapur with Sanjaya, who is his close servant, and is anxious about the war which is happening in Kurukshetra. So he asked this question. The reason for his asking this question is this four. He was desirous. What is desirous of? He desirous that the Kauravas should win the battlefield. They should win. And he was very confident because of the presence of Bhishma. While Bhishma is there, nobody else can win over him. Arjuna can never defeat Bhishma. Not possible. With that confidence, he was desirous. He was desirous that the war should start and Pandava should be destroyed. And the Kauravas return with a great success in the battle. However, being that place happened to be Dharmakshetra, that Kurukshetra became a Dharmakshetra, religious, he was doubtful. He was doubtful of the victory of his own sons because they are not dharmic. See, a place influences you. For example, each one of you sitting in front of your screens, you might be in a particular place. If that place is quite peaceful, stable, not too much disturbance are there, you can give proper attention to the class, which we are discussing right now in Bhagavad Gita. Is it not? However, if you happen to be in a place where no, people are talking or people are planning something else and like that, you naturally your attention is not very much there, is it not? So for everything, you should have a chosen places. No? Therefore, I request all devotees, you should have a defined places for defined things. No? For sleeping, you sleep on the bedroom. For eating, you should have a separate place where you only do the activity of eating. Uh, Having dinner, dining table, or something like that. And for studying, you should have a separate place where you study. And for chanting, you should have a separate place. If you start doing everything at the same place only, you'll be confused about your entity. You don't know what actually to perform at what time. Every place, every time has to be defined, and every place has to be defined. In this way, you can keep your regulation. So, because that Dharma Kshetra, that Kshetra, Kurukshetra is religiously oriented, he was doubtful whether his adharmic sons will be successful there. And he was fearful. What he was fearful? He was fearful that Dharma Kshetra, because of being very religiously filled area, that Kshetra, that area may influence the mind of Duryodhana. And Duryodhana may start feeling, why I'm behaving very adharmically? It is not good for me to behave like this. They are asking only five places. Let me compromise myself and go. So he was fearful of that, of the change in the mind of Duryodhana. He doesn't want his son's mind to be changed. He wants his son to be envious of Pandavas. He wants his son to be greedy about the post and position. He wants his son to fight till the end of his life for maintaining that Rajasimhasana. So that's how Dhritarashtra is blinded spiritually. And same as the father, the children, all the Kauravas are also blinded. And he was hopeful. What he was hopeful? He was hopeful that this Dharma Kshetra, because it's so dharmic, the place is, it may influence the mind of Pandavas. And Pandavas may start thinking, why we are fighting? Can't we stay in the forest? 13 years we stayed in the forest peacefully. Sometimes there were here and there fights between each 5 brothers, but we stayed peacefully. We were hearing Harikatha, Kirtan from the sages. Why don't we continue like that throughout our life? He was hopeful that the religious place will influence Pandavas to go back, to step back from the war and completely go into the forest forever, for life. So these are the reasons for asking this question. Kim Akurvata Sanjaya? What they were doing by assembling. So Dhritarashtra was very much conscious about his own. It's called as me consciousness. Mamaka. Mamaka matlab my and Pandava. So basically they're only divided. This dividing consciousness is very dangerous. So I would like to show some very important aspects in this. Yeah. So we see while Devaki and Vasudeva are being married, we see the same type of me consciousness, Mera, Mamaka, that was there with Kamsa. However, when that Akashvani came, where it stood that the 8th son of the Devaki will be the cause of your death, immediately he started raising the sword on that lady whom he loved as his life. So the Mamaka consciousness is triggered because of the presence of me, mine, me and mine, aham mameti. This aspect is very strong, which we can see in Dhritarashtra, and an example we see of Kamsa. He became very much. Kamsa personally drove the chariot. However, when he heard, he became very angry and he pulled that girl, that lady whom he was protecting throughout his life. Within a matter of second, he changed his consciousness because he felt that Devaki is the cause of his. So Kamsa, this way we see that Kamsa raised. And then we see Dhritarashtra, same aspect happened in another time when before the war was going to start. The Vidura was realizing that Duryodhana, Dhritarashtra, everyone is going very adharmically. So he started chastising Dhritarashtra, his brother, elder brother. However, Duryodhana could not take it. Duryodhana started insulting Vidura and drove him out of the palace. And this happened because of Duryodhana's strong consciousness. He respected his uncle. He respected his uncle very much. However, when he found that uncle is touching his ego, touching his me consciousness, aham mameti aspect, immediately Duryodhana charged at Vidura. And we see the same principle in Bhagavatam also, where Dhruva was insulted by his stepmother Suruchi. Suruchi had Uttanupada, the king Uttanupada has two wives, Suruchi and Suniti. Suniti is the first wife from whom he had Dhruva. And Suruchi, the second wife from whom she had, what is the name? He had the brother of Dhruva, another son. So when Dhruva came, saw his father was holding his younger brother in the lap, he also desired to sit on the lap. So immediately Uttanapada took the Dhruva in his lap and made him sit on the lap. So immediately that time Suruchi observed it. Suruchi became very annoyed. And then she came and she started insulting Dhruva. He was a 5-year-old small boy who was just thinking of sitting on the lap of his father. But Suruchi thought that this Dhruva is desiring to sit on the Simhasan. Now he's sitting on the lap of his father. Tomorrow he wants to sit on the Simhasan. So she became envious of Dhruva and she started insulting him. This is because of Suruchi's me consciousness. Me, mera, apna hona chahiye. Dusaron ka nahi, apna hona chahiye. And this consciousness is what we divides us. Kaikeyi, another example from Ramayana. Kaikeyi was polluted by the Mantara's association. Mantra, who was her maid servant, she became very disturbed when she heard that Ram is going to become the king. Because when Ram becomes the king, the Rajamata will be Kaushalya. And naturally, the Kaikeyi's position is the third prince, and therefore she will remain a Dasi. And Mantra became very fearful of her own position, her own sustenance. If Kaikeyi becomes the Dasi of Kaushalya, then what about my situation? What will happen about my bread and butter, my post and position? So, fearing her own personal safety, insecurity, Mantra went and polluted the mind of Kaikeyi. Kaikeyi had a great love for Lord Ram. However, she had envy for Kaushalya. And Mantra triggered that envy because of the me consciousness. This me consciousness is triggered. So, unfortunately, we are surrounded throughout the day, throughout our life with such consciousness, me consciousness. And this me consciousness sometimes divide the families, divide the friends. Many of the people who come close, they remain on a spirit of service. They get divided because of this Mamaka, Mamaka consciousness, Mamaka Mera. Anything, even in the family who are close, sometimes they are also divided when something happens to me. If I am hurted, I don't care for anyone else. I will say anything, I will do anything with them. So that is how we should see how our consciousness being polluted with the Mamaka principle, Mamaka consciousness. However, we should actually broaden our consciousness. Just like the Yudhishthira did during the exile, one time, each one of his brothers, Arjuna, Bhima, and Nakula Sahadev were being kept unconscious by a Yaksha. And then Yudhishthira goes in searching for his four brothers, and he found Yaksha, standing there, and his four brothers lying unconscious, literally on the deathbed. Literally on the deathbed. So Yaksha asks certain questions, and Yudhishthira answers. But Yaksha asked the last question to Yudhishthira. He asked Yudhishthira, now I wanted to hear the answer to, I'm very satisfied with all your answers. However, I'm waiting for one question. If you answer it, then I'll think of returning one of your, then I will think about regaining back your brothers. So he asked, Yaksha asked Yudhishthira, so whom you want to have returned back to life among the four? You have to choose only one. The only option of choosing one person out of the four. See, Yudhishthira, Bhima, and Arjuna are born from the Pandavas' first wife, that is Kunti. And Nakula Sahadev were born from the second wife of Pandu, that is Madri. So now the question comes to Yudhishthira from Yaksha, whom you want to regain back. Naturally, the love and affection which you have for your own blood brothers will be more than others, other cousins and things. Okay? Here immediately Yudhishthira says, I want Nakula to be back. So he was surprised. Yaksha was surprised. He said, Arey, come on. You should have asked Arjuna or Bhima who can really support and take you ahead in your kingdom while fighting for your kingship. They will be literally helping a lot. But why you choose Nakula instead of selecting Bhima and Arjuna? Then immediately Yudhishthira Maharaj says, see, when Pandu left the body, Madri was very confident of Kunti's love and care. Therefore, she kept her two sons in charge of, Kunti, with full confidence that Kunti will fully take care of Nakula and Sahadev. And she went for Sati. She could not bear the separation from Pandu, and she felt that I am the reason. She felt she is the reason for the Pandu's death. So she left along with Pandu, Madri. So that time, keeping this in the mind, I am selecting Nakula because from Kunti side, at least I am alive. From Madri side, somebody should be alive. From Mother Madri side, somebody should be alive. Therefore, I chosen Nakula. Hearing this, Yaksha became so happy, seeing the broad-mindedness of the Yudhishthira Maharaj, and he returned back the life of all the four, not just of Nakula, but Bhima, Arjuna, and Sahadev also. So this is a very beautiful episode in Mahabharata which comes. Okay, so we see same principle is followed by other Pandavas also, like Arjuna saved Duryodhana from a Gandharva. This episode also comes in the Mahabharata where Duryodhana wanted to show his opulence in front of the Pandavas who were exiled in the forest. So he takes entire his camp to have a party. And he's doing his party in the middle of a forest where Pandavas were staying. And he's showing his opulence to all the Pandavas who were actually living very austere life. And Duryodhana was showing his opulence, enjoying with Apsara, many girls in the pond. And he started actually enjoying in a place which actually belongs to one Gandharva. And the Gandharva became annoyed with Duryodhana's breaching, or you can say his trespassing into his private area. So immediately that Gandharva came and captured Duryodhana. And Bhima became very happy. He said, let Duryodhana die. And then, but however, Yudhishthira and mentioned, it's not good. When there is a fight between both of us, that's okay. We are like two parties, Pandavas and Kauravas. But when somebody else is attacking the Kuruvamsas, we should all together should fight for it. So immediately Yudhishthira tells Arjuna, go and save Duryodhana from the Gandharvas. So you can see the Arjuna very amazingly with his expert archery, which he learned from the blessings of the Devatas during the exile. He had defeated the Gandharva and freed Duryodhana from the bondage. That's how we see that we should transfer our consciousness from me to what divides us is that me consciousness. A mera and this is yours, white and black. This bodily consciousness divides us very much. However, this body, what unites us is the spiritual consciousness. We see in ISKCON as a society where many people are together, irrespective of the bodily differences, the color, creed, or the nations, religion also. There may be different religions, but they all united in the principle of bhakti and on the principle of soul. So that is what Pandavas are like. So we should shift our consciousness from me to we consciousness. Therefore, in our spiritual practice, this is first very important principle. Don't think about your own self. By being selfish, actually you don't do any benefit to yourself or anyone. By being selfless, you can do a lot of. By being selfless, it's not that you are insecure. Your position is lost. By being selfless, you can actually help the society. So we learn from this particular first verse of Bhagavad Gita, how much you can learn from this particular. The Mamaka, Pandava, by dividing consciousness, Duryodhana, from childhood only, he brought this mentality in the mind of Duryodhana. The Dhritarastra did this in the mind of Duryodhana and other Kauravas. However, Yudhishthira always was careful of having that we consciousness. We are together. We are united. We are brothers. This aspect always he maintained. So it's very important to see this aspect here. Okay. So we'll read just like what Arunab mentioned. We have 10 more minutes. In the 10 more minutes, I would like to briefly touch the other verses. Yeah. So in the second verse, Sanjaya mentions that how Sanjaya had this benediction from Vyasadeva that by sitting in Hastinapur only, you can envision what is happening in the Kurukshetra. By the mercy of Vyasadeva, he got this vision. So he says that Duryodhana or Dhritarastra, he says to Dhritarastra, don't worry, don't be fearful that your Duryodhana is losing interest or enthusiasm, and don't be fearful that they will return back. No, Duryodhana is very enthusiastic. He is approaching Drona. He mentions in the second verse. That what our Arnav Prabhu also read. In the second verse, actually, the hitting point is that Duryodhana approaches Dronacharya. That what Sanjaya mentions. He is approaching Dronacharya. This is a very diplomatic aspect of Duryodhana, character Duryodhana we see. Duryodhana was actually very fearful. What he was fearful of? The warriors. He will list down. The different Pandava warriors who are there. He was fearful of them. And however, he doesn't want to show his fear outside because he is the main man. On the Kaurava side, he is the main man. And he doesn't want to show his fear in front of other friends and colleagues. What he's doing? He's hiding his fear by approaching Drona in a respectful way. Actually, he doesn't have respectful attitude for Drona and Bhishma. However, he is approaching his guru, Drona. And then what he does to Drona, he points out the mistakes. See, if you respect some seniors, you should first go and take their blessings. Not that you go and just point out what are the problems they're having or what they're doing, points mistakes. It's very, very bad. It's a very bad attitude we all can cultivate in our life. When you see someone senior, have that faith. They're matured because of their experience in years. Have the faith that they are in a position of giving blessings. So you go more respectful attitude, you receive a lot of blessings. Not that you go in a challenging mode. The modern world, the focus is on don't trust anyone who is older in age. People don't trust. They have no respectful attitude only for the seniors. Here, Dronacharya, in order to keep his fear aside, he approaches externally in a respectful attitude towards Dronacharya. But what the first thing he does, he points out the mistake of Drona. Duryodhana points out the mistakes of Dronacharya in the first. His first address is fault finding. So let's see. The first thing what Duryodhana is doing is fault finding. Actually, to find faults, you need to be very intelligent. Actually, आप बोला बोलाएंगे तो समझेंगे नहीं. He is very shrewd. Duryodhana is very diplomatic, very political. He understands किसका क्या गड़बड़ है. And you see, first thing he is doing with his seniors is गड़बड़ को दिखा रहे हैं. क्या कह रहे हैं? पश्चैतां पांडपुत्राणाम् आचार्या महत्तमम् व्यूढं द्रुपदपुत्रेण शिष्येण धीमता. अरे महाराज जी, गुरु जी, आपके एक शिष्य हैं, द्रुपद पुत्र, जानते हो. दूसरे तरफ आर्मी को देखिए. एक्चुअली उनका डर है. He's expressing his fear about the powerful army on the other side. But the way he's expressing is diplomatic, by pointing out the faults of his guru. He said, "Oh Drona, you are lenient when Dhritarastra, the son of Drupada." Actually, it's another big story. Maybe today we'll conclude by speaking on this aspect of third verse, and remaining we will brief it in the next session. So this story which Aruna Prabhu was kept for me to speak on. Here, Dhritarastra, you see in this photo, is a Dhritarastra. So this Dhritarastra, he is the son of Drupada. In childhood, Dronacharya's childhood, Drona and Drupada. Drona happened to be a Brahmana family, and Drupada happened to be Kshatriya. And in Vedic time, in Gurukuls, both Kshatriyas, Brahmanas, and Vaishya children are educated at the same place. Like we see Krishna and Sudama. Krishna is from Kshatriya Kul, and from Sudama is from a Brahmana Kul. Like the Drupada and Drona, they were friends. And after their Gurukul, they were departing that time. They had so much friendship for each other. They wanted to do benefit. So Drupada said, Drona, anytime you need help, please come to me. I am there. I'll always be there to serve you. Don't feel shy about coming to me. And Drona also says to Drupada that I am you are my best friend. How will I forget you? However, being a Brahmana, I know the art of being satisfied. Brahmana should be satisfied. Kshatriya should be protective. These are very important principles. Kshatriya should be protective, sheltering. He should be shelter giver. He should be protecting people, Kshatriya. Brahmana should be satisfied. Whatever is coming in his plate, he should be satisfied. Whatever in his account, should be satisfied. If anything more, he will share it with others. So here, Dronacharya had a son, Ashwadhama. And they were, because of the arrangement of divine will of the Lord or what situation, Dronacharya's life was not very up to the mark, even from the Brahmana perspective. He was so poor that he could not maintain. Therefore, actually, Drona was giving education to the Gurukula. However, the situation was that he was not having sufficient to take care of his family. And at one time, his wife insisted, Kripi insisted Drona that, Are, you have very amazing friend in your Gurukul time, Drona, Drupada. Why don't you go and take some help from him? As a Brahmana, you can at least ask Bhiksha. You can ask a Bhiksha. You can do the Bhiksha of asking, begging from him. In this way, he will also be benefited, and you can also maintain your family. So Drona goes to Drupada to meet Drupada. But however, Drupada doesn't receive, just like Krishna received Sudama in a very amazing way. But here, Lord can reciprocate very nicely. But here, Drupada doesn't reciprocate nicely with Drona. He says, Are, you are taking the benefit of friendship. You are actually wanted to take some benefit of me by quoting some friendship we had at in Gurukul time. Why don't you directly ask what you need help? So Drona became very insulted by these words. Instead of helping Drona, Drupada was actually insulting. Drona. So Drona became very annoyed. He said, Drupada, what are you saying? Don't you remember those days? He said, how can there be friendship? Drupada says, how can there be friendship between such a low person like you and me? Friendship is only between equals. Equals means who is same caliber as like me. I am a king of particular desha. Drupada, I am the king. So you should also be like a king. You are a pauper on the street and you want to make friendship with me. Immediately Drona says, yes, the friendship is between equal people. Let me see who is greater than who. Saying this, Drona leaves the palace and he goes on searching for a opportunity where he could actually defeat Drupada. And that time, in his eyes, the entire Pandava and Kaurava family came in picture. And there he learns that the Pandavas and Kauravas, who are small children, they are looking for some teacher. And he interfered, and through his miraculous activity, he attracted the respect of all the children. And Bhishma appointed Drona as their guru. And Drona taught the Kauravas and Pandavas equally. However, he saw that amazing response from the Pandavas. Teacher naturally become affectionate for those students who give a very, very enthusiastic participation and involvement. So naturally, Drona developed a great affection for Pandavas, and especially with Arjuna. And then, as a Guru Dakshina, they asked what we should give. Duryodhana immediately remembers that revenge which he wanted to take over Drupada. He says, get down Drupada to my feet. That is the Guru Dakshina he asked. Immediately, Kauravas, headed by Duryodhana, leaves to the Panchala Desh. However, Drupada was so amazing warrior, so strong that nobody can combat with him. And all the Duryodhana and his 100 brothers, all his other brothers, all were captured like an animal in the Panchala Desh. And not seeing the return, Dronacharya became very anxious. What happened? I gave so much training all these years to take revenge over Drupada, and now they have got captured. He was feeling very anxious, and that is the time Arjuna says, Don't worry, I will go and get him. So Arjuna alone goes. However, it's not Arjuna alone goes. Other Pandavas also accompany him. All of them accompany and they go to Duryodhana, Drupada. And Drupada first time had an amazing experience with Arjuna. The way Arjuna fought and brought down Drupada was so amazing that even Drupada became very much attracted to Arjuna. However, after bonding him with the ropes, Pandavas relieved all the Kauravas, and together all the Kauravas and Pandavas together brought Drupada at the feet of Drona. And Drona said, Drupada seeing Drona, he said, "Oh friend, so it is entire arrangement of yours. Please relieve me from this. I am your friend." Immediately Drona said, "How can you be my friend? Friendship is only between equals. So what I will do, your entire kingdom, I am the king of your Panchala Desh now. You are just a captured animal within my kingdom. However, I would like to maintain my friendship with you. Therefore, I offer half of the kingdom back to you." So Drona, what he did actually, the entire kingdom what he received, in that half kingdom, proprietorship, everything was given to Drona back. Sorry, Drupada back. And then Drona said, "Now we can be friends." And now at that time, immediately Drupada understanding his mistake, realizes, and they make a friendship. However, being in the heart, he was, he felt very insulted by the entire process. Okay. Therefore, he maintained his internal vengeful attitude towards Drona. See, this is a difference. There is a very big difference between the word Drupada and Drona. Drona never maintained a vengeful attitude for a long time. He wanted to take a revenge. But vengeful attitude maintain karne ki sabse nahi tha. He wanted to teach his friend a lesson. For that purpose, he maintained to some extent. And he did a positive thing of training Pandavas and Pandavas. However, we see on the Drupada's side, he maintained his hatred because of that caste differences which he saw, because of that status difference which he saw. He maintained a very low level of attitude, mental attitude. Even after that, when he was defeated and given half of the kingdom back, he maintained that attitude of vengeful. He wanted to actually kill Drona. Therefore, he did a tapasya. And in tapasya, he wanted a son who can actually kill Drona. And that's how the Dhritarastra was born. And everyone knew this. Even Drona knew that the son of Drupada, Dhritarastra, was born only to kill him. He knew this aspect. He knew very much. However, Drupada wanted to train his son in archery, and he sent no other person than to Drona only. He sent to Dronacharya only, to his Gurukul only, the Dhritarastra, to learn the art of archery, so that in the future, the same student, Dhritarastra, will kill Drona. Drona, being a Brahmana and very principally oriented, he did not hesitate to teach a student who is going to become his the cause of his death, or you can say he is going to become the murderer, his own murderer. He was instructing archery knowledge to his murderer. That is the liberty, or you can say the broad-mindedness of a Brahmana. Drona was like that. So this is a great quality. However, Duryodhana finds faults with it. He says, "Oh Drona, don't do that mistake again here. You are affectionate that time to Dhritarastra and you taught him. entire. And that same person is arranged entire Pandavas army now. And now don't do the same mistake of being affectionate to the Pandavas. And don't be lenient now. You were lenient that time. You liberally teach your murderer only. Now don't be lenient by showing your affection for Pandavas. So that is the how he points out the mistake, even the diplomatic. But for being a Vaishnava, being devotees, we should not be diplomatic. We should try to avoid diplomacy. Because in the name of diplomatic, actually we may become political. And in political, what we do is that we find faults. We'll see many other aspects of Duryodhana coming out, which already Aruna Prabhu mentioned in the next sessions of our Bhagavad Gita. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for your patience hearing. Anyone has any question or any doubt on this aspect, then we can discuss. Hare Krishna.